This video, I'm going to do something that I normally hate, like things that make me cringe about the YouTube online Bible review space, and that is unboxing videos. Oh, I hate them so much. But at the same time, I know you guys that watch this channel, you like to see what's out there. You like to see products and different Bibles and study Bibles. I get it. I get it. So this is as close as I'm going to come to an unboxing video. And I'm not knocking those of you who've built your channel off doing that. That's your thing. You probably feel that way about, superheroes and whatnot. Everybody has things that make their eyes roll. That just happens to be mine. But I do want to take a look at something that I just got in the mail today and show you guys on camera so you can decide if it's something that you want as well. So while we're getting ready to do that, if you haven't already, we'd love it if you would subscribe to this channel. We don't do these type of videos a lot. Most of what we do are in-depth study Bible reviews, long-form interviews with biblical scholars, exegetical teaching based on the biblical text, even our silly superhero seminary videos, which is why I'm surrounded by these guys behind me. All the stuff that we do here on the channel, we're able to do it because of those of you that support us. So if you haven't already done that, we would really appreciate it if you would. All right, so I'm a big believer in reading multiple translations. If you've seen any of our Disciple Dojo material, you know I don't believe there is a best English translation of the Bible. All translation is interpretation. And so it's helpful to see how various people or committees, scholars interpret scripture in their translations. And with programs like Logos or Accordance, or even free apps like Step Bible or YouVersion, it's really easy to check a lot of translations all at once. But some aren't always available, and that is true particularly for Jewish translations of the Old Testament. Now, for the past, I guess about 2 years now, I've been using the Koran English Tanakh. It's a good English translation done by Jewish scholars. If you saw the video here where I reviewed this, you know that this is the English only version. There's also like right behind me on the shelf there's a Hebrew and English version, and we go into those in the video. And so I've enjoyed checking out Koran and comparing it with other translations, especially because it's in print and I can have it like sitting right beside my nightstand. But another translation that I've used and I've really enjoyed is Robert Alter's translation of the Hebrew Bible. Now, I've only had Alter's translation on my Kindle, which I have on my phone as well as on my iPad. So I use that for reading my Kindle books. But there's some things about the Kindle version I don't love. So here I have the Kindle version pulled up on my Android. And when you go to the menu, like I was wanting to, I've been reading Isaiah, what's called Second Isaiah recently. And so when I get to Isaiah, like I want to read Isaiah, and there's no way that I know of, at least on the Kindle version, for me to skip to different chapters. These hyperlinks are for verses and his verse notes, which is one of the things I like about Alter's translation. He kind of explains why he's treating certain verses or phrases the way he does. But I can't find a way other than just scrolling to, okay, so I come to the chapter notes. There's the end of chapter 1. So click to advance to the next section of the text. All right, so I click this and it just takes me to chapter 2. There's no way to go to chapter 40, which is what I want to do. So when I pull up, the table of contents only gives me the introduction and the book itself. So if you're navigating big books of the Bible, it's not easy. I mean, I can maybe click the slider, but then you're scrolling really fast and it's just giving you page numbers. Down at the bottom, it'll tell you what page you're on. But it's just not very easy to navigate the Kindle version of Alter's translation. So I finally decided, you know what? This is a Bible review channel. I need to review this anyway, or at least let folks know about it. And I would like a copy that I can put on the shelf and pull down and get exactly what I need to. So I ordered, and it just came today, the hardback version of Alter's translation. And so we're going to just take a look at it and you will get to see what I see in real time and the format of his translation. So here's what it looks like. It came in this slipcase. The back, this is a very cool design. And the design that's on the cover. So there we go. Let's get this cellophane off. All right, so you can see this is it's 3 volumes. It's the Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, or the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the prophets, and the writings. All right, so let's look at them one by one. So here is the Torah, really nice dust jacket design, a little bit about who Robert Alter is on the back. And I believe this came out first. I think he originally did these in different volumes. So this was published previously as a Genesis translation and commentary back in 1996. Then he did the David story, a translation with commentary of 1st and 2nd Samuel in 1999. So then the 5 books of Moses came out in 2004. Then he did the Psalms with a commentary in 2007, the Wisdom books, Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, 2010. Ancient Israel, the former prophets, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings. That was 2013. Strong as Death is Love, the Song of Songs, Ruth, Esther, Jonah, and Daniel. That came out in 2015. And so now this version, 2019. About the author page. And then we have the contents. There's an introduction to the Hebrew Bible, and it focuses a lot on the literary aspect of the text. Alter is a literary expert. He's not primarily a biblical scholar. A section on translating the names of God, about his commentary. Then there's an introduction to the Torah, the 5 books. There's a map. We come to Genesis, and there's an introduction to the book of Genesis. Chapter 1, so here's how the chapters are laid out. The verses are not in the text. They're on the side. That's nice. So you can read uninterrupted. And then the notes for the different verses in the chapter down at the bottom of each page, and they're keyed to the specific verse. Zoom in a little closer so you can see. Very clean layout. He tries to preserve the poetry. This first poem that we've looked at here on the channel just recently, you can take a look at that video. I'll put it in the video description. So this is nice. Rather than like on Kindle having to tap between hyperlinks to get to the notes, they're just here on the page. I really like the layout. I like that the poetry is made clear. This is poetry. Now, unlike the Koran English Tanakh, Robert Alter uses the anglicized forms of the name. So you have Noah instead of Noach. You have Abram instead of Avram. Jacob rather than Yaakov. So that was what would make this different than something like the Complete Jewish Bible or the Koran. But this is nice. It's just the text. The notes are right there on the page. I really like this layout. I probably won't take notes in this set like I do in my study Bibles. I'll probably just keep this clean as a reading Bible, no underlining or highlighting or anything for the most part. But if I were, there's enough margin space to be able to take notes. The paper's nice and thick. There's not really much bleed through at all. And then at the end of Deuteronomy, that's it. No appendix, no anything like that. So that's the Torah. Now we come to the prophets, the Nevi'im, and this is definitely the thickest of the 3 volumes. Again, you've got the nice cover, dust jacket, artwork. I really like the artwork. Same thing, just a quick note about it, a little bit about Alter. Oh, it explains on the back, the dust jacket, it explains the artwork. My undergraduate degrees were in art, so I want to give a shout out to the artist here, but this is cool. Jacket art says, detail of Mem Lamed Kaf and Yod from the creation. Circa 1978-1980, a series of 10 tapestries designed by Mordecai Ardon, 1896 to 1992. And it tells you where they're exhibited. That's cool. It's a neat little feature. So we've got the prophets, the Nevi'im, and in the Hebrew Bibles, unlike Christian Bibles based on the Septuagint, the prophets include what they call the former prophets, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings. Those are prophetic books in the Hebrew Bible, whereas in English Bibles, they are part of the history books or the historical books. But in Jewish Bibles, they are there along with then the major prophets and the 12 minor prophets. There's an introduction to the minor prophets, and then I don't know what this is about. It says Jonah, and then introduction to Jonah, and then the book of Jonah. So let's flip 1285. So you come to Amos, Obadiah, and then Jonah. There's an introduction to Jonah. None of the other 12 minor prophets have an introduction. And it's 3 pages long, which is almost as long as Jonah itself. That's interesting. I don't know exactly why Jonah got its own introduction, but none of the other minor prophets did. If you know the answer to that, leave it in the comments below. I'd be interested. So the prose sections are laid out in prose, and then the poetry sections. The poetry is preserved. I really like this. I'm a fan of this layout. Yeah, this is nice. Very easy to read. Now, I was interested to see how Alter handles this. In, say, for instance, the Koran English Tanakh, when you come to Isaiah 42:6, you can see right here it says, I, the Lord, call you forth in victory, and I will hold your hand. I shall form you and make you a covenant people. And you can see the Hebrew, I've written it right there, Livrith Am, a covenant people, make you a light unto nations, La'or B'goyim, to open blinded eyes, to bring prisoners out of captivity. Now, this is this translation, make you a covenant people, makes it seem like God's talking about Israel, collectively, the people of Israel. And this is in the servant song in Isaiah. So Jewish interpreters, many of them, not all, but many have said, no, the servant is Israel, the people Israel, collectively. And that's how Koran English translates this. Robert Alter, also a Jewish translation though, translates it, I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness and held your hand and preserved you and made you a covenant for peoples and a light of the nations, to open blinded eyes, etc., etc. So translating this as a covenant for peoples rather than a covenant people, both of those you can find in Jewish translations. That's not a Jewish Christian thing. Although Christians, of course, would say, no, this is not talking about the people Israel. This is talking about the servant. And God's going to make the servant be a covenant for the nations. And of course, that goes with the seed theology that's throughout the Old Testament. And then Christians, we would say it culminates in Jesus, the ultimate seed of Abraham, who was himself a covenant, not just for Israel, but also for the nations. So in this case, this is a case where I agree with Alter's translation over, say, Koran or some of the other, I think the new JPS. I think Alter is right on this one. But anyway, this gives you an idea of volume 2. And then lastly, we come to volume 3, the Ketuvim, the writings. So we've got some from that same, looks like it's from the same series of tapestries. Yep, Mordecai Ardon's tapestries. This one is Ayin Samik Nun. These are Hebrew letters. And so the writings, the Ketuvim, that includes Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Song of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, and then Kohelet, which is Ecclesiastes. So different order than Christian Bibles. Esther, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah. Daniel is placed in the writings rather than the prophets, even though we would say Daniel is a prophet. The book of Daniel in Jewish Bibles is considered part of the writings. And then it ends with 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Those are the last books of the Hebrew Bible literarily. So again, it's got the same introduction at the beginning. I believe this is the same in all 3 volumes. Looks like the same map. Then we start with the Psalms. The poetry is preserved just like in the other volumes, really nice. If you were a note taker, you got a lot of room on the page to work. When it comes to Selah, that's put out here to the side. We don't know exactly what Selah means. It's best scholars can guess it's some sort of pause, maybe a musical term or a point to break and meditate or something like that. We don't exactly know. So some translations leave it out, but I think it's part of the text. So put it in there and just transliterate it, which is what Alter's done. There's an introduction about wisdom literature. And then we come into Proverbs. All the books have their own introductions in this volume. And then we come to the end. And this is important. One of the things that interpreters have noted in the Hebrew Bible order, the last line in the Hebrew Bible, and it's actually 5 words in English, but it's the verb, and let him go up. So this is Cyrus decreeing Israel can return to the land. And even though other parts of the writings take place after this decree, like Ezra, Nehemiah, the way the chronicler has retold it, like Chronicles is kind of like a retelling of all of Israel's history from a different perspective, and it ends with this note of hope. So in the Hebrew Bible, in the order in the Hebrew, it ends with this, with a note of hope and longing. And that's something that many Jewish people around the world throughout history have longed to go up, waiting for the Messiah to come and restore Jerusalem and let them be able to return under the Messiah back to Israel, to the temple. In English Bibles that follow the Septuagint, when you have Malachi as the last book of the Old Testament, Malachi ends with a very dour warning. The last last word of Malachi is this word, utter destruction. So this is, I'm sending my servant Elijah. He will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the sons hearts to their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with utter destruction. So this is how the Old Testament in the Septuagint collection and in Christian Bibles ends. And then you turn the page from this promise of sending Elijah, you turn the page to Matthew, and immediately you have the story of Jesus and John the Baptist, who is the Elijah to come. And it just flows naturally if you believe in the New Testament and think that that is a continuation of Scripture. Obviously, if you don't believe in the New Testament and think that it is Scripture, then the ending, Second Chronicles ending, and let him go up, this promise of return that's still awaiting fulfillment, that is a much more appropriate ending for those who do not believe in the New Testament. So that's just an interesting little point of observation about the ordering of the books in the Hebrew Bible I thought was worth pointing out. And so there you go. There is the hardback edition of Robert Alter's translation of the Hebrew Bible. Now, I want to make it clear, I really like Robert Alter's translation overall, but there are times I don't think it's that great. There's sometimes I think he's trying to be a little too literary. There's sometimes I think preserving what he sees as the artistry actually can obscure the meaning of a passage. He, of course, would say, no, that's the point. It's literature first, and it's up to you to find the meaning, not the translator to explain everything. And that's a valid point. Typically, I actually agree with Alter's translation philosophy. If you've read his book, The Art of Biblical Translation, or Translating Biblical Poetry, Biblical Narrative, he makes really good points. And that's why I like having access to his translation. This is not my primary study translation. I wouldn't recommend it as someone's primary study translation of the Hebrew Bible, because as good as it is, it's still done just by one person. And no one person, no matter how good a translator they are, has the knowledge and the insight to completely catch all of the nuances that you can get when you have like a number of scholars working together, co-laboring. The strength of Alter's translation, I think, that makes it better than the Core and English Tanakh in many ways, is the footnotes are more extensive. He explains when he departs from, say, the Masoretic reading sometimes, or traditional English interpretations, whether Jewish or Christian. So I have a lot of respect for Alter's translation. I don't deify it. It's not like this is the real translation and your Christian Bibles are worthless. That's dumb. Anybody that says that, that's just ideology. That's not actual factual biblical scholarship. But at the same time, his translation is very readable, very enjoyable, and it makes you look at the text in new ways sometimes. So I recommend it. I mean, if you have room on your shelf, I think this is great to have. The Kindle version, like I said, it's good having it at my fingertips on my phone or on my iPad. It's just hard to navigate. So I mean, if Kindle had fixed that, if there was a chapter navigation within the Kindle version, then I may not have actually bought this version, although I'm glad I did. This is going to be better to read, especially late at night when, I want to turn my screens off and just have paper. So anyway, I just wanted to show you this. This is, like I said, technically this is an unboxing video. Oh, I hate those so much. But regardless, this is Robert Alter's translation. That's what it is. And you can decide if it's something that you are interested in or not. That's all for now. If you appreciate these reviews, we would appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and stay tuned for more here at Disciple Dojo. That'll do it for now. As always, keep training.